The Mistral-class is a class of 3 amphibious assault ships, also known as a helicopter carrier, of the French Navy and Russian Navy. Referred to as projection and command ships, a Mistral-class ship is capable of transporting and deploying 16 NH-90 or Tiger helicopters, 4 landing barges, up to 70 vehicles including 13 AMX-56 Leclerc tanks, or a 40-strong Leclerc tank battalion, and 450 soldiers. The ships are equipped with a 69-bed hospital, and are capable of serving as part of a NATO Response Force, or with United Nations or European Union peacekeeping forces. 3 ships of the class are in service in the French Navy: Mistral, Tonnerre, and Dixmude. A deal for 2 ships for the Russian Navy was announced by French President Nicolas Sarkozy on December 24, 2010, and signed by Russian Deputy Prime Minister Igor Sechin and French Defense Minister Alain Juppé, copyright in the presence of Sarkozy on January 25, 2011. History: French doctrine of amphibious operations in 1997. In 1997, the DCN started a study for a multi-purpose intervention ship. At the same time, the French doctrine of amphibious operations was evolving and being defined as the CNOA. The BIP was to renew and increase the amphibious capabilities of the French Navy, which at the time consisted of 2 Founder-class and 2 Ouragan-class landing platform docks. The CNOA was to assert the French Navy's capability to perform amphibious assaults, withdrawals, demonstrations, and raids. This would allow the French Navy to further integrate into the doctrinal frameworks described by NATO's allied tactical publication NADE 8B and the European Amphibious Initiative. While the CNOA made air capabilities a priority, it also recommended an increase in the number of vehicles and personnel that could be transported and deployed. The CNOA fixed the aim to project a force comprising 4 combat companies for 10 days, in a 100-kilometer deep sector. This force should be able to intervene either anywhere within 5,000 kilometers of the French metropole, or in support of French overseas territories or allies. As well as joint operations with NATO and EU forces, any proposed ship had to be capable of inter-service operations with the troops de marine brigades of the French Army. Evolution of the concept: the studies for a multi-purpose intervention ship began during a time where the defense industries were preparing to undergo restructuring and integration. The BIP was intended to be a modular, scalable design that could be made available to the various European Union nations and constructed cooperatively, but political issues relating to employment and repartition of contracts caused the integration of the European nations with naval engineering expertise to fail, and saw the BIP project revert to a solely French concern. In 1997, a series of common ship designs referred to as Nouveau Transport de Chalans de Dar, copyright bâtiments, loosely based on the aborted Penthouse 75 nuclear helicopter carrier, were revealed. The largest of these was BIP-19, which later became the basis of the Mistral-class. The BIP-19 design included a 190 meters long flush deck, with a 26.5-meter beam, a draft of 6.5 meters, and a displacement of 19,000 tons. Dimensions which exceeded the requirements of the NTCD concept. 3 smaller ship designs were also revealed, based on scaled-down versions of the BIP-19 design and with a common beam of 23 meters, BIP-13, BIP-10, and BIP-8. BIP-8 incorporated features of the Italian San Giorgio-class amphibious transports, but included a helicopter hangar. At the design stage, the NTCD concept featured an aircraft lift on the port side, another on the starboard side, one in the center of the flight deck, and one in front of the island superstructure. These were later reduced in number and relocated. A main lift towards the aft of the ship was originally located to starboard but then moved to center, and an auxiliary lift behind the island superstructure. Concept drawings and descriptions created by Direction des Constructions Navals, one of the 2 shipbuilders involved in the project, showed several aircraft carrier-like features, including a ski jump ramp for stow-bar aircraft, 4 or 5 helicopter landing spots, and a well deck capable of accommodating a Sabre-class landing craft, or 2 LCAC hovercraft. A review by the French Senate concluded that Stobar aircraft were outside the scope of the CNOA, requiring the modification of the design. The NTCD was renamed into Portiha Copyright Lycopteres da Euro unregistered trademark intervention in December 2001, before being eventually named Bâtiment de Projection Aide de Commandement to emphasize the amphibious and command aspects of the concept. Design and construction. At Euronaval 1998, the French confirmed that they were planning to construct a series of vessels based on the BIP-19 concept. However, construction of two ships, Mistral and Tonnerre, was not received until December 8, 2000. A contract for construction was published on December 22, and after receiving approval from the Public Purchase Authority on July 13, 2001, was awarded to Direction des Constructions Navals and Chantiers de l'Atlantique at the end of July. An engineering design team was established at Saint-Nazaire in September 2001, and following consultation between DCA and the DAR Copyright La Copyright Gation Gar Copyright Na Copyright Rail pour l'Allemand began to study and adapt the BIP-19 design. In parallel, the general concept was being refined by DGA, DCN, the Chief of the Defense Staff and Chantiers de l'Atlantique. During the design and validation process, a 1/120th scale model was constructed and tested in a wind tunnel, revealing that in strong crosswinds, the height of the ship and elongated superstructures created turbulence along the flight deck. The design was altered to minimize these effects and provide better conditions for helicopter operations. The ships were to be constructed at various locations in two major and several minor components, which would be united on completion. DCN, which was designated the head of construction and made responsible for 60% of the value of construction and 55% of the work time, assembled the engines in Lorient, combat systems in Toulon, and the rear half of the ship, including the island superstructure in Brest. STX Europe, a subsidiary of STX Shipbuilding of South Korea, constructed the forward halves of each ship in Saint-Nazaire, and was responsible for transporting them to DCN's shipyard in Brest for the final assembly. Other companies were involved in the construction. Some of the construction work was outsourced to Stochia Remontour d'Igor SK, while Thales provided the radars and communication systems. It was predicted that each ship would take 34 months to complete, with design and construction for both ships costing €685 million. Starting from Dixmude, the rest of the French Mistrals and the first two of the Russian Mistrals will all be built in Saint-Nazaire by STX France, which is jointly owned by STX Europe, Alstom and the French government, with STX Europe having the majority stake. DCNS will provide the ship's combat system. DCN laid the aft keels for both ships in 2002. Mistral on July 9, and Tonnerre on December 13. Chantiers de l'Atlantique laid the keel of the forward part of Mistral on January 28, 2003, and of Tonnerre later. The first block of the rear of Tonnerre was put in a dry dock on August 26, 2003, and that of Mistral on October 23, 2003. The two aft sections were assembled side by side in the same dry dock. The forward section of Mistral left Saint-Nazaire under tow on July 16, 2004, and arrived in Brest on July 19, 2004. On July 30, the combination of the two halves through a process similar to jumboization began in dock number 9. Tonnerre Euro unregistered trademark S forward section arrived in Brest on May 2, 2005, and underwent the same procedure. Mistral was launched on schedule on October 6, 2004, while Tonnerre was launched on July 26, 2005. Delivery of the ships was scheduled for late 2005 and early 2006 respectively, but was postponed for over a year because of problems with the SEN-99 sensor system and deterioration to the linoleum floors of the forward sections. They were commissioned into the French Navy on December 15, 2006 and August 1, 2007, respectively. The French Livre Blanc sur la DAR Copyright Français Lazare Copyright Curator Copyright National 2008, a policy-defining document for matters of defense, forecast that 2 more BPCs would be in service with the French Navy by 2020. A third ship was ordered in 2009, with this order being placed earlier than expected as part of the French government's response to the recession which began in 2008. Her construction began on April 18, 2009 in Saint-Nazaire. Due to economic constraints, the entire ship was built there. On December 17, 2009, it was announced that the third ship of this class would be named Dixmude. It had been suggested that it might be given the historic name of Jeanne d'Arc following the decommissioning of the helicopter cruiser of that name in 2010, but the idea met opposition within some French naval circles. The possibility of a fourth Mistral-class ship was officially abandoned in the 2013 French White Paper on Defense and National Security. Features and capabilities. Based on displacement tonnage, Mistral and Tonnerre are the largest ships in the French Navy after the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle, for roughly the same height above water. Aviation. The flight deck of each ship is approximately 6,400 square meters. The deck has 6 helicopter landing spots, one of which is capable of supporting a 33-ton helicopter. The 1,800 square meter hangar deck can hold 16 helicopters, and includes a maintenance area with an overhead crane. To aid launch and recovery, a DRBN-38A Decker Bridgemaster E-250 landing radar and an optical landing system are used. The flight and hangar decks are connected by 2 aircraft lifts, both capable of lifting 13 tons. The 225 square meter main lift is located near the aft of the ship, on the centerline, and is large enough for helicopters to be moved with their rotors in flight configuration. The 120 square meters auxiliary lift is located aft of the island superstructure. Every helicopter operated by the French military is capable of flying from these ships. On February 8, 2005, a Westland Lynx of the Navy and a Cougar landed at the aft of Mistral. The first landing of a NH-90 took place on March 9, 2006. Half of the air group of the BPCs is to be constituted of NH-90s, the other half being composed of Tigray assault helicopters. On April 19, 2007, Puma, a Permil Kuruil and Panther helicopters landed on Tonnerre. On May 10, 2007, an MH-53 Dragon of the U.S. Navy landed on her reinforced helicopter spot off Norfolk. According to Mistral unregistered trademark S first commanding officer, Capitaine de Vaisseau Gilles Hamo, the size of the flight and hangar decks would allow the operation of up to 30 helicopters. Mistral aviation capabilities are comparable to those of the Wasp-class amphibious assault ship, for a sixth the cost and crew requirements of the American ship. Amphibious transport. Mistral-class ships can accommodate up to 450 soldiers, although this can be doubled for short-term deployments. The 2,650 square meter vehicle hangar can carry a 40-strong Leclerc tank battalion, or a 13-strong Leclerc tank company and 46 other vehicles. By comparison, Founder-class ships can carry up to 100 vehicles, including 22 AMX-30 tanks in the significantly smaller 1,000 square meter deck. The 885 square meter well deck can accommodate 4 landing craft. The ships are capable of operating 2 LCAC hovercraft, and although the French Navy appears to have no intention of purchasing any LCACs, this capability improves the class' ability to interoperate with the United States Marine Corps and the British Royal Navy. Instead, the DGA ordered 8 French-designed 59-ton EDA catamarans. Command and communications. Mistral-class ships can be used as command and control ships, with a 850 square meter command center which can host up to 150 personnel. Information from the ship's sensors is centralized in the SENIT system, a derivative of the U.S. Navy's Naval Tactical Data System. Delays in the development of the SENIT-9 revision contributed to the 1-year delay in the delivery of the 2 ships. SENIT-9 is based around Thales tri-dimensional MR-3DNG multi-role radar, which operations on the C-band and incorporates IFF capabilities. SENIT-9 can also be connected to NATO data exchange formats through Link 11, Link 16 and Link 22. For communications, the Mistral-class ships use the Syracuse satellite system, based on French satellites Syracuse 3A and Syracuse 3B, which provide 45% of the super high-frequency secured communications of NATO. From 18 to June 24, 2007, a secure video conference was held twice a day between Tonnerre, then sailing from Brazil to South Africa, and VIP visitors of the Paris Air Show. Armament. As of 2008, the two Mistral-class ships were armed with two Simbad launchers for Mistral missiles and four 12.70 mm 2HB Browning machine guns. Two Breeder Morse 30 mm/70 guns are also included in the design, though not installed as of 2009. Incidents such as the near loss of the Israeli corvette INS Hanit to a Hezbollah-fired anti-ship missile during the 2006 Lebanon War have shown the vulnerability of modern warships to asymmetric threats, with the Mistral-class ships considered under-equipped for self-defense in such a situation. Consequently, Mistral and Tonnerre cannot be deployed into hostile waters without sufficient escorting ships. This problem is compounded by the small number of escort ships in the French Navy. There is a 5-year gap between the decommissioning of the Sechin-class frigates and the commissioning of their replacements, the Horizon and FREMM frigates. Following the experiences of French naval commanders during OPA copyright ration ballast, the French deployment to aid European citizens in Lebanon during the 2006 war, proposals to improve the self-defense capabilities of the two Mistral-class ships were supported by one of the French chiefs of staff, and are under active consideration as of 2008. One suggestion is to upgrade the dual-launching, manual Simbad launchers to quadruple-launching, automatic Tetrol launchers. Hospital. Each ship carries a NATO Role 3 medical facility, that is, equivalent to the field hospital of an Army division or Army Corps, or to the hospital of a 25,000-inhabitant city, complete with dentistry, diagnostics, specialist surgical and medical capabilities, food hygiene and psychological capabilities. A Syracuse-based telemedicine system allows performing complex specialized surgery. The 900-square hospital provides 20 rooms and 69 hospitalization beds, of which 7 are fit for intensive care. The two surgery blocks come complete with a radiology room providing digital radiography and ultrasonography, and that can be fitted with a mobile CT scanner. 50 medicalized beds are kept in reserve and can be installed in a helicopter hangar to extend the capacity of the hospital in case of emergency. Propulsion. Mistral and Tonnerre are the first ships of the French Navy to use azimuth thrusters. The thrusters are powered by electricity from 5 V32 diesel alternators, and can be oriented in any angle. This propulsion technology gives the ships significant maneuvering capabilities, as well as freeing up space normally reserved for machinery and propeller shafts. The long-term reliability of azimuth thrusters in military use is yet to be tested, but the technology was previously used aboard other amphibious transport ships, including the Dutch Rotterdam class and the Spanish Galicia class. Accommodations. The space gained by the use of the azimuth thrusters allowed for the construction of accommodation areas where no pipes or machinery are visible. Located in the forward section of the ship, crew cabins aboard Mistral-class ships are comparable in comfort levels to passenger cabins aboard Chantiers d'Atlantique constructed cruise ships. 15 officers each have an individual cabin. Senior non-commissioned officers share 2-man cabins, while junior crew and embark troops use 4 or 6-person cabins. Conditions in these accommodation areas are said to be better than in most barracks of the French Foreign Legion, and when United States Navy Vice Admiral Mark Fitzgerald inspected one of the Mistral-class ships in May 2007, it was claimed that he would have used the same accommodation area to host a crew 3 times the size of Mistral, a unregistered trademark S complement. Operational history. The BPCs are certified as members of the naval component of the NATO Response Force, which allows them to take part in a combined joint task force. France provided forces to NRF 8 in January 2007, including a commander amphibious task force and 8 ships. The next contribution took place in January 2008 in NRF 10, after exercises Noble Midas, which tested Link 16 and the Sexot system, which operationally controls submarines. The forces can be set up in a 5 to 30 days notice. Mistral made her maiden voyage from March 21 to May 31, 2006, cruising in the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean. Following the start of the 2006 Lebanon War, Mistral was one of 4 French ships deployed to the waters off Lebanon as part of OPA copyright ration ballast. These ships were to protect, and if necessary evacuate, French citizens in Lebanon and Israel. Mistral embarked 650 soldiers and 85 vehicles, including 5 AMX-10RC and about 20 VABs and VBLs. 4 helicopters were also loaded aboard, with another 2 joining the ship near Crete. During her deployment, Mistral evacuated 1,375 refugees. Tonnerre unregistered trademark S maiden voyage occurred between April 10 and July 24, 2007. During this voyage, Tonnerre was involved in OPA copyright ration Licorne, the French co-deploying complement of the United Nations operation in Quartier d'Ivoire following the Ivorian Civil War. Gazelle and Cougar helicopters of the French Air Force operated from the ship during July 9. At the start of 2008, Tonnerre was involved in the Coram 92 mission, a humanitarian mission in the Gulf of Guinea. During this deployment, Tonnerre acted on tip-offs from the European Maritime Analysis Operation Centrial Narcotics, and intercepted 5.7 tons of smuggled cocaine, 2.5 tons from a fishing vessel 520 kilometers from Monrovia on January 29, and 3.2 tons from a cargo ship 300 kilometers off Conakry. In May 2008, Cyclone Nargis struck Burma, the worst natural disaster to hit the region. Mistral, which was operating in the East Asia area at the time, loaded humanitarian aid supplies, and sailed to Burma. The ship was refused entry to the nation's ports. The 1,000 tons of humanitarian supplies had to be unloaded in Thailand and handed over to the World Food Programme. French Foreign Minister Alain Juppé copyright announced on May 23, 2011 that the French ship Tonnerre amphibious assault helicopter carrier with attack helicopters aboard would be deployed to the Libyan coast to enforce UN Resolution 1973. Future developments, export. Since 1997, and particularly since the Euronaval 2007, the Mistral type has been promoted for export. The BPC family comprises the BPC 140, the BPC 160 and the BPC 250 long. The BPC 250 was the design from which the final Mistral-class design was derived. The reduction in length and other modifications were a price-saving exercise. The BPC 250 concept was one of 2 designs selected for the Canberra-class amphibious warfare ships, to be constructed for the Royal Australian Navy. The design finally chosen was the Spanish Buque de Proyección Denestrata copyright Jica-class amphibious ship. According to French daily La Tribune, the Royal Canadian Navy shows strong interest in buying 2 Mistral ships. The Royal Malaysian Navy, the Swedish Navy and the South African Navy might show an interest in the ships. As of late 2011, the Polish Navy has been working closely with the Polish Ministry of Defense to purchase 1 Mistral ship. The Indian Navy has also expressed interest in the design of the Mistral type as a multi-role support vessel. Brazil and Turkey could in time consider purchasing BPCs. Algeria is also considering the purchase of 2 BPCs. Russian purchase. On December 24, 2010, after 8 months of talks, Russian President Dmitry Medvedev approved the purchase by Rosoboronexport of 2 ships of the Mistral class from France for a $1.37 billion. The first Mistral class ship is expected to be delivered in late 2014 or early 2015. Russia made an advance payment in January or February 2011 pursuant to the January 25, 2011 Memorandum of Understanding between the 2 parties. The final agreement between Russia and France has been signed on January 25, 2011. In August 2009, General Nikolai Makarov, chief of the Russian General Staff, had suggested Russia planned to purchase 1 ship with the intention of later constructing 3 further ships in Russia. In February 2010 he said that construction of the ships would start sometime after 2015 and would be a joint effort with the French. French President Nicolas Sarkozy favored the building of the first 2 ships in France and only the second 2 in Russia. According to Moscow-based Center for Analysis of Strategies and Technologies, the first ship will be entirely built and assembled in France from 2013, the second in France, assembled by Juppé in Russia and delivered in 2015. 2 more will be built in Russia by a DCNS Russian United Shipbuilding Corporation joint venture. On November 1, 2010, Russia's United Shipbuilding Corporation and France's shipbuilders DCNS and STX France signed an agreement to form a consortium. The agreement includes a transfer of technologies and is a move that may bring a pending helicopter carrier deal closer to completion, the U.S. president said. On November 15, the Russian Defense Ministry announced that the tender was closed and the winner would be named by the end of the month. This announcement had still not been made by December 24, but Commerçant and Defense Industry Daily suggested that Daewoo Marine Shipbuilding and Engineering, Navantia, Dammons Helder, or ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems could be among the bidders. In the United States, 6 Republican senators, including John McCain, complained in a letter to the French ambassador in Washington about the proposed sale, while Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, the top Republican on the United States House Committee on Foreign Affairs, introduced a resolution that would express the sense of Congress that OE France and other member states of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and the European Union should decline to sell major weapons systems or offensive military equipment to the Russian Federation. Although Defense Secretary Robert Gates told French officials during his visit to Paris on February 8, 2010, that U.S. was OE concerned about the sale, U.S. officials accompanying him said there is little if anything the United States could do to block the deal, adding that OE's sale of the Mistral to the Russian Navy did not pose a major problem. The same day, the deal was granted by France's DGA. It is the first major arms deal between Russian Federation and the NATO countries if the Soviet Union's acquisition of Rolls-Royce Nene and Rolls-Royce Derwent turbojet engines in 1947 is not included. Some design changes must be implemented, like making a Russian version of Mistral compatible with Russian Ka-52 and Ka-27 helicopters. Nikolai Makarov announced that the first ship of the tender will be deployed to the Russian Pacific Fleet, and it can be used in case of necessity to transport troops to the Kuril Islands. NATO members Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia from the Baltic region have protested against the purchase. Lithuania's Defense Minister Rasa Juknevičius told reporters that, "It's a mistake. This is a precedent, when a NATO and EU member sells offensive weaponry to a country whose democracy is not at a level that would make us feel calm." According to Russian General Staff General Nikolai Makarov, the chief reason for purchasing the French design, rather than relying upon domestic producers, is that Russia would need another 10 years to develop the technologies required, an unacceptable delay. In March 2011 the deal stalled on Russian demands for sensitive NATO technologies to be included with the ships. Later the Russian President Dmitry Medvedev fired the senior Navy official who was in charge of talks with France over the purchase. On May 26, 2011 it was reported that the two nations had reached a final agreement and that it should be signed by mid-June. On June 17, 2011, the two nations signed an agreement for 2 ships for $1.7 billion. In 2013, Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Rogozin stated that the ships would not be able to operate in Russia's climate and that the ships require a grade of diesel fuel not produced in Russia. In 2014, an immediate arms embargo against Russia due to the actions of the Russian army in the Crimea was nixed due to the French desire for the Mistral sale to Russia to continue. French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius was considering cancelling the Russian deal for 2 Mistral-class ships in response to the Crimean referendum. This came as the United States and European Union imposed sanctions on Russian officials associated with the referendum. They are considered Phase 2 economic sanctions, while cancelling the Mistral contract would be Phase 3. Fabius acknowledged that the loss of the contracts would be damaging to the French economy. However, the 2 ships could still be sold to Russia as civilian hulls, which Russia would only arm as warships after receiving them. In May 2014, Paris issued a formal guarantee to Moscow that the 2 ships would be built for them. Production for Russia. The first ship of the Mistral class will be built within 36 months after the first advance payment. A second ship will be built within 48 months. At the initial stage, the consortium provides for the joint construction of 2 ships of this type with the subsequent production of 2 more. Russia will fulfill 20% of the required work during construction of the first Mistral-class ship in the STX Europe shipyards in Saint-Nazaire, France. The third and fourth ships will be constructed in St. Petersburg. Russia plans to build new shipyards on Kotlin Island near St. Petersburg. These will be used to construct Mistral-class ships and other large civil and military vessels in the future. The first ship was laid down on February 1, 2012 and will have the name Vladivostok. The ship will join the Russian Navy within 36 months. The second ship has been named as Sevastopol. In April 2013, Russia announced that its Mistral-class ships will be based in the Far East ports at Vladivostok and Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. The ports were chosen because of their existing transport infrastructure. In the future, Russia will create conditions for a short-term base equipped for storage, replenishing, loading and unloading troops, and crew rest in Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. Other possible bases are still being considered. It was also noted that it was more convenient to base the ships near major cities to provide housing for the crew and their families. Ships, notes and references. External links: Mistral-class at naval-technology.com, Mistral-class, French Marine Nationale, La BPC, Un of Nouvelle Gare Copyright Na Copyright Russian, globalsecurity.org, DCNFR, meritmarine.com, http://www.dcnsgroupcomistral.html